Jack Miller loved the quiet of early morning patrols in Glacier National Park. The sun was just coming up over the Montana mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. After 15 years as a park ranger, he thought he had seen everything these woods could offer. He was wrong. The first sign was the broken trees. Dozens of them, snapped like toothpicks along the ridge. Jack stopped his truck and grabbed his binoculars from the passenger seat. Something had carved a half-mile scar through the forest. "Dispatch, this is Ranger Miller," he said into his radio. "I've got what looks like a landslide or crash site near Bear Hat Mountain. Going to check it out." The radio crackled. "Copy that, Miller. Be careful out there." Jack followed the trail of destruction uphill. The damage was fresh, maybe just a few days old. Strange that nobody had reported anything. As he crested the ridge, he stopped dead in his tracks. What in the world? In the valley below sat a massive object, partially buried in the earth. It was clearly not a plane or helicopter. The shape was all wrong, smooth and oval, at least the size of a football field. The outside was a dark metal that seemed to absorb the morning light rather than reflect it. Jack's hand shook as he raised the radio again. "Dispatch, you need to call someone, FBI, military, whoever. I think I found a crashed spaceship." Within hours, black helicopters filled the sky. Men in hazmat suits swarmed the site. Jack found himself being questioned by stern-faced officials who seemed more interested in what he might have touched than what he had seen. "Mr. Miller, I'm Colonel Thomas West," said a tall man with close-cropped gray hair. Unlike the others, he wore a regular Army uniform. "Thank you for your service today. What you found is now a matter of national security." "It's alien, isn't it?" Jack asked. "An actual spaceship?" Colonel West's face remained neutral. "We're going to need you to sign some papers." Dr. Elena Rivera had been eating breakfast when the call came. Now, 12 hours later, she stood before the most important discovery in human history. "Preliminary scans show no radiation risk," said one of her team. "The hull appears intact except for damage at what we believe is the propulsion section." Elena nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. After years of studying theoretical xenotechnology at MIT, then being recruited to a classified government program, she was finally looking at proof that humanity was not alone. "Dr. Rivera," called Colonel West, "you have clearance to approach the vessel." Elena put on her hazmat suit and walked slowly toward the ship. Up close, she could see strange symbols etched into the hull. Not random patterns, but clearly a written language. She placed her hand on the metal surface. It was cool to the touch, not cold like steel would be. "Amazing," she whispered. A small team followed her around the perimeter. The ship had dug a deep trench when it crashed, but remained largely intact. Whatever it was made of, it was stronger than any material on Earth. "There," said Elena, pointing to what looked like a seam in the hull. That could be an entrance. 2 days later, they managed to open the ship. Teams of scientists and military personnel worked around the clock, setting up a secure base around the crash site. The world's governments had been informed, but the ESID public remained in the dark, for now. Inside the ship was beyond anything Elena had imagined. Corridors with gravity that seemed to pull in different directions. Rooms that changed shape slightly when no one was looking directly at them. Control panels made of something that wasn't quite metal or plastic, that seemed to glow from within. "Based on the dust patterns and system status, I'd estimate this ship has been here about 15 years, Elena told Colonel West as they stood in what appeared to be the main control room. The crew evacuated in a hurry. "Look here." She pointed to several empty slots in a wall panel. "These appear to be escape pod launchers, all deployed." "So the aliens could still be on Earth?" West asked, his voice tense. "Possibly, or they could have been picked up by another ship. Without access to their communication systems, it's hard to know." A young technician rushed into the room. "Dr. Rivera, we got one of their computer systems working." The alien data was impossible to translate, but the images were clear enough. The ship belonged to a species that called themselves something unpronounceable. The translation team nicknamed them Vraxians, after a symbol that appeared frequently in their communications. "They're explorers, as far as we can tell," Elena explained during a briefing with top military and government officials 1 month after the discovery. "Their ship was damaged by some kind of space anomaly, and they made an emergency landing on Earth. And they've left us quite a gift," said the Secretary of Defense. "The technologies in that ship are centuries beyond our own." Colonel West nodded. "We've already identified power systems that could replace fossil fuels entirely. Material stronger and lighter than anything we've ever developed. And the propulsion system, if we can understand it, we could reach Mars in days instead of months." "What about weapons?" asked a general. "Nothing obvious," Elena said quickly. "They seem to be a scientific vessel, not military." "Every ship has defenses," the general insisted. Elena chose not to argue. The truth was, she had found weapon systems, advanced ones. But something about the general's eager expression made her hesitate to share everything. Over the next 3 years, humanity made incredible progress. Reverse engineering the alien technology led to breakthroughs in energy production, medicine, and materials science. Special factories were built to produce new devices based on Vraxian designs. The first human spacecraft using alien propulsion was already under construction. The world knew about the ship now. The discovery had been too big to hide. But people had adapted quickly to the idea that they weren't alone in the universe. The fear that aliens might return seemed to fade as years passed with no sign of them. That changed on a quiet Tuesday evening. Elena was working late in her lab at the crash site, now a massive research facility named Project Icarus. She'd been studying a damaged component from the ship's communication array when her computer chimed with an alert. Something inside the ship had activated on its own. She rushed through the facility to the ship's bridge. The main console, dark for 3 years despite all attempts to power it, now glowed with alien symbols. "What happened?" she asked the night shift technician. "Nothing. It just turned on by itself about 5 minutes ago." Colonel West arrived moments later, summoned by security protocols. "Is it a threat?" "I don't think so," Elena said, studying the patterns. "It looks like... oh no." "What?" "It's a distress beacon," she said quietly. "The ship has finally repaired itself enough to call for help." "Can we shut it down?" West asked. A technician tried, but the controls wouldn't respond. "It's locked us out." "How long has it been transmitting?" Elena asked. "According to these readings, almost 3 hours now." Elena and Colonel West exchanged worried glances. After 3 years of peace, they both had the same terrible thought. What if someone was listening? In the darkness of deep space, a Vraxian commander received an alert from a communications officer. "Commander Krell, we've detected an automated distress signal." "Source?" Krell asked, his 4 eyes narrowing. "It's the research vessel Toraak, the one lost 15 cycles ago." Krell stood up from his command chair. "Impossible. That ship was destroyed. The signal is authentic, Commander, and it's coming from the 3rd planet of a yellow star system, a primitive world we cataloged, but never fully explored." "Set course immediately," Krell ordered, "and inform the High Command. Our lost ship has been found." 3 years had changed everything. Where once there had been a simple crash site in the Montana wilderness, there now stood a massive research facility. Tall fences surrounded the area, and armed guards patrolled day and night. Inside those fences, humanity's brightest minds worked to understand the alien technology. No one had worked harder than Dr. Elena Rivera. She had barely left the facility in 3 years, dedicating her life to unlocking the secrets of the Vraxian ship. "The power core is the key," she told Colonel West as they walked through her laboratory. "If we can fully understand how it works, we could provide clean energy for the entire planet." Around them, teams of scientists tested materials and devices based on the alien technology. Some worked on new metals stronger than steel, but lighter than plastic. Others studied the ship's medical equipment, which could heal injuries in minutes. Colonel West nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. "Any progress on disabling that distress beacon?" Elena shook her head. "No, It's completely locked us out. It's been transmitting for 6 months now. And no way to know if anyone is listening, West said grimly. As if answering his question, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed in the corridors. West's radio crackled to life. "Colonel, we have a situation. Report to the command center immediately." The command center was filled with tense military personnel when Elena and West arrived. Large screens showed satellite images and radar data. "What's happening?" West demanded. A young officer pointed to one of the screens. "Sir, Space Command. Detected multiple objects entering the solar system near Neptune's orbit. They appeared out of nowhere, suggesting some kind of faster-than-light travel." "How many objects?" Elena asked, her heart racing. 7 large vessels, sir, each one bigger than our largest aircraft carrier." The room fell silent. After years of preparation, the moment they had feared had finally arrived. Earth was no longer alone. "Get me the President," West ordered, "and activate the Earth Defense Protocol." Jack Miller had returned to his job as a park ranger after signing countless secrecy documents. He had tried to go back to normal life, but nothing felt the same after what he had seen. When the news broke 3 years ago about the alien ship, he had watched with the strange feeling of someone who had been part of history. Now, as he drove his truck along a forest road, the radio suddenly cut out. A moment later, every station was broadcasting the same emergency message. "This is an international alert. Unknown spacecraft have entered our solar system and are approaching Earth. This is not a drill. All citizens should remain calm and follow instructions from local authorities." Jack turned his truck around. He knew exactly where he needed to go. Within hours, the aliens made contact. Their message was broadcast on every television and radio channel around the world. "People of Earth, we are the Vraxian Collective. We have detected our property in your possession. The vessel you have taken belongs to us. Return it immediately, along with any technologies you have derived from it. Failure to comply will result in severe consequences. You have 24 hours to respond." The message was accompanied by images of the 7 massive ships now positioned between Earth and the Moon. They were dark and angular, clearly built for war rather than exploration. In the White House Situation Room, world leaders gathered via video conference to discuss their response. "We cannot simply surrender the ship," said the president. "The technologies we've developed are too important for humanity's future." "But can we stand against them?" asked another leader. "Their ships are massive. We have no idea what weapons they possess." Elena, who had been invited to provide scientific expertise, spoke up. "I believe negotiation is possible. The fact that they're communicating at all suggests they don't want to destroy us outright. Or they're simply following protocol before they wipe us out," said a general. Colonel West had a different view. "We're not as defenseless as they might think. We've made significant progress with their technology. Can we fight them?" the president asked directly. West chose his words carefully. "We can't match them ship for ship, but we've developed defensive capabilities that might surprise them." Commander Krell watched the blue planet on his view screen. After months of travel, they had finally arrived. The lost research ship had somehow crashed on this backwater world, and now these primitives were refusing to return it. "The humans have responded to our message," reported his communications officer. "They wish to negotiate." Krell snorted in disgust. "Negotiate? The ship is ours. They have no right to it." "There's something else, Commander," said his science officer nervously. "We've been scanning their planet. They appear to have already adapted some of our technology." "Impossible," Krell said. "The ship was damaged, and these creatures are primitive. Nevertheless, we're detecting energy signatures consistent with Vraxian power systems, and their orbital satellites show clear signs of our influence." Krell's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. This was unexpected. The ship had crashed only 15 cycles ago. For such a primitive species to understand Vraxian technology so quickly was concerning. "Set up the communication link," he ordered. "I will speak to their leaders myself." The United Nations General Assembly had been chosen as the site for humanity's first official contact with an alien species. Elena and Colonel West sat in the front row as the massive screen showed Commander Krell's face for the first time. The alien had 4 large eyes set in a face covered with small scales. His mouth was wide and lipless. Most shocking was how almost human he looked despite the differences. "People of Earth," Krell began. "I am Commander Krell of the Vraxian Collective. We have come to reclaim our property." The Secretary General stepped forward. "Commander, we welcome you to our solar system. We hope we can find a peaceful solution to this situation." "There is only one solution," Krell replied coldly. "Return our vessel and all derived technologies immediately." "The ship crashed on our planet," the Secretary General explained. "We didn't steal it. Yet you took it apart. You stole our knowledge." "We studied it, yes, as would any curious species." Krell's eyes narrowed. "Your species has used our technology to advance yourselves unnaturally. This was not authorized by the Collective." Elena whispered to Colonel West. "He sounds almost afraid." West nodded slightly. "They didn't expect us to understand their technology so quickly." On the screen, Krell continued, "We will allow you 1 standard cycle to prepare. You will deliver the ship and all derived technologies to the location of its original crash. Any attempt to keep our property will be considered an act of war." The screen went dark. The Secretary General turned to the assembled leaders. "I believe we just received an ultimatum." Elena stood up. "There's something you all need to know. I've discovered something in the ship's database that changes everything." All eyes turned to her. "The Vraxians aren't the original creators of this technology," she said. "Based on historical records I found buried in the ship's computers, they scavenged most of their advanced technology from ruins of an ancient civilization." "Are you certain?" asked the President. "Yes," Elena replied. "The Vraxians didn't build that ship. They found it just like we did. The only difference is that they've had it longer." Colonel West smiled grimly. "So they're not coming to reclaim their property. They're coming to make sure no one else gets it." "Exactly," Elena said. "And there's something else they don't know." Before she could finish, alarms sounded again. One of West's officers rushed into the chamber. "Sir, the Vraxians have launched smaller vessels. They're heading toward major cities worldwide." The first shots of an interstellar war had been fired. The Vraxian attack was not what anyone expected. Instead of bombs or lasers, their smaller ships released thousands of small drone-like machines over major cities. These drones didn't attack people. Instead, they targeted research facilities, power plants, and military bases that showed signs of using alien technology. "They're not trying to kill us," Colonel West said as he watched footage of the attacks. "They're trying to set us back." 6 hours after the drone attacks began, they stopped as suddenly as they had started. The small ships returned to the Vraxian fleet. Then came another message from Commander Krell. "You have experienced a small demonstration of our power. Your attempts to use our technology against us will fail. We now give you 6 months to gather all pieces of our ship and all devices made from our technology. After that time, we will take back what is ours, whatever the cost." The world's leaders met again, this time with greater urgency. 6 months, the President said. "That's how long we have to prepare." "Why wait 6 months?" asked the British Prime Minister. "Why not attack now when we're already damaged?" Elena, who had been studying data from the attacks, spoke up. "I believe they need time too. The fact that they used drones instead of direct weapons suggests they're being cautious. They don't know exactly how much of their technology we've managed to understand." Colonel West nodded. "Dr. Rivera is right. They expected to find primitives with a crashed ship, not a species that had already adapted their technology. They're reassessing." "Then we use these 6 months wisely," said the President. "Colonel, you will coordinate global defense preparations. Dr. Rivera, you have unlimited resources to learn everything you can from that ship." The next day, Jack Miller arrived at Project Icarus. He had driven non-stop from Glacier National Park, showing his old security clearance at the gate. "I need to see Dr. Rivera," he told the guards. Elena was surprised to see him. "Jack, what are you doing here?" "I found the ship first," he said simply. I've been following everything you've done with it. I want to help. We need all the help we can get, Elena admitted, especially from someone who knew the ship before we started taking it apart. She led him into the facility, which was now buzzing with activity. The drone attacks had destroyed some research labs, but the main facility at the crash site remained untouched. The Vraxians were careful not to damage their own ship, Elena explained as they walked toward the vessel, but they tried to destroy our reverse-engineered technology. Inside the ship, teams of scientists worked frantically. Jack was amazed at how much had changed since he'd last seen it. Walls had been removed, systems exposed, and human computers connected to alien interfaces. We've learned so much, Elena said, but there's still so much we don't understand. Over the next few weeks, military forces around the world began to prepare. Weapons using alien technology were rushed into production. Defense systems were built around major cities. Every satellite and telescope watched the Vraxian fleet, which remained positioned between Earth and the Moon. Colonel West established a unified Earth Defense Force, bringing together soldiers from every nation. For the first time in history, humanity stood united against a common threat. The Vraxians have given us one advantage, West told his international team of officers. Time. We will use every second of it. On the Vraxian command ship, Commander Krell faced growing pressure. His superiors were not pleased with his decision to delay retrieval of the ship. The humans are dangerous, he argued during a communication with the collective's High Council. They have adapted our technology at an alarming rate. A direct attack would cost many Vraxian lives. Your job is to retrieve the ship, Commander, said High Counselor Mez. Not to admire the local wildlife. I am not admiring them, Krell insisted. I am respecting them as a threat. Our scans show they have already developed weapons based on our technology. All the more reason to strike quickly. No, all the more reason to be careful. We need time to study their defenses to find the best approach. High Counselor Mez narrowed her 4 eyes. You have the time you requested, Commander. 6 months, not 1 day more. Back on Earth, Elena made a breakthrough. Working with Jack, who had an intuitive understanding of the ship's layout, she discovered a hidden chamber deep within the vessel. It was sealed with a different kind of technology, she explained to Colonel West. That's why we missed it in our earlier scans. Inside the chamber, they found what looked like weapon schematics. But these were different from the defensive systems they had already discovered on the ship. These weapons are far more advanced than anything the Vraxians used in their attack, Elena said, examining the designs. And look at these symbols. They're similar to the ones on the ship, but different in key ways. What does that mean? West asked. It means the Vraxians either don't have these weapons or don't understand how to use them, Elena replied. Remember what I discovered before. They scavenged this technology from another civilization. Jack, who had been studying the ship's control systems for weeks, added, I think there are patterns here that suggest the ship has capabilities the Vraxians never accessed. Like what? West asked. Like recognition systems, Jack said. Parts of the ship that seemed to be waiting for the right user. Elena looked at him with excitement. You think the original builders included some kind of security system? A way to prevent their technology from being misused? Exactly, Jack nodded. The more I study the control panels, the more I'm convinced they're designed for hands different from the Vraxians. Maybe hands more like ours. Colonel West looked skeptical. That's a big maybe to bet the planet on. It's worth investigating, Elena insisted. If there's even a chance the ship will respond to humans in ways it didn't for the Vraxians, we need to know. As the months passed, both sides prepared. On Earth, new weapons were tested and defensive positions strengthened. In orbit, the Vraxian fleet studied human defenses and planned their attack. Commander Krell spent hours reviewing the data on humans. They were adaptable, resourceful, and surprisingly unified in the face of threat. Not at all what he had expected. From a species that had only recently discovered space travel, there's something unusual about these humans, he told his second-in-command. Something familiar. Sir? The way they've adapted our technology so quickly. It reminds me of the ancient records of how our ancestors first discovered the ruins, of the Forerunners. You think there's a connection? Krell stared at the blue planet on his view screen. I don't know, but I intend to find out. The 6-month deadline approached. Earth's defenses were as ready as they could be. The Vraxian fleet began to move into attack position. The battle for Earth was about to begin. The 6 months passed too quickly. On the final day of the deadline, the Vraxian fleet began to move. Their 7 massive warships spread out, taking positions above major cities across the globe. In the command center at Project Icarus, Colonel West watched the movement on large screens. Beside him stood world leaders connected through secure video calls. They're positioning for a coordinated attack, West said. Just as we expected. The president's face was grim on the main screen. Are our defenses ready? As ready as they can be, West replied. The new weapons have been distributed worldwide. Our pilots have trained with the reverse-engineered fighters, but we're still outnumbered and outgunned. And the ship? Asked the president. Dr. Rivera's special project? West glanced at another screen showing Elena and Jack working inside the alien vessel. Still in progress, no guarantees. Understood. Good luck, Colonel. To all of us. As the screens went dark, one of West's officers called out, Sir, we have movement from the Vraxian fleet. They're launching dropships. On the monitors, hundreds of smaller vessels detached from the main ships heading toward Earth's atmosphere. The battle for humanity had begun. Commander Krell watched from his command chair as the attack force descended toward the blue planet. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The humans had ignored his ultimatum as expected. Now they would learn what it meant to defy the Vraxian collective. First wave approaching the atmosphere, reported his tactical officer. Remind all commanders, Krell said. Primary objective is securing the ship. Secondary objective is disabling their reverse-engineered technology. Minimize native casualties where possible. He wasn't being merciful. The collective preferred to exploit planets rather than destroy them. Dead humans had no value. Conquered humans might be useful someday. Sir, we're detecting energy signatures from the surface, the tactical officer said suddenly. They appear to be defensive systems, based on our own technology. Krell leaned forward. Show me. The display revealed weapon emplacements around major cities and military bases. They were crude by Vraxian standards, but recognizable adaptations of Vraxian designs. They've been busy, Krell murmured. Adjust attack pattern. Target those defenses first. The sky over Montana filled with alien ships. The first wave targeted the defensive ring around Project Icarus, where the original ship remained. Laser fire cut through the air, striking human tanks and artillery positions. Colonel West directed the defense from an underground bunker. Hold the line. We need to buy Dr. Rivera more time. Earth's military forces fought back with everything they had. New fighter jets equipped with energy weapons based on Vraxian technology engaged the alien dropships. On the ground, soldiers fired weapons that could penetrate alien armor. The humans fought with desperate courage, knowing the entire planet's fate hung in the balance. But the Vraxians had centuries more experience with their own technology. Slowly, they pushed forward, breaking through the outer defenses. Deep inside the alien ship, Elena and Jack worked frantically. For months they had studied the hidden chamber and its secrets. Now they were making their final attempt to activate what they believed was an integrated defense system. The patterns in the control panel match these symbols here, Jack said, pointing to markings on a wall. I think they're instructions, not decorations. Elena nodded, making adjustments to the connections between their computers and the ship's systems. The material analysis confirms it. The control interfaces were designed for hands with 5 fingers, not the 4-fingered hands the Vraxians have. That's why they never accessed these systems, Jack realized. They physically couldn't. Outside, they could hear explosions as the battle drew closer. The facility shook with each impact. We're running out of time, Elena said, fear in her voice. Jack looked at the strange, circular depression in the center of the control panel. It was sized perfectly for a human hand. I think I know what we need to do, he said quietly. On the surface, the Earth Defense Force was losing ground. The Vraxian troops had landed and were moving toward the facility in large numbers. Their weapons were more powerful, their armor stronger. Colonel West received the reports with growing dread. "Fall back to the secondary line. Protect the entrance to the ship at all costs." A soldier shouted, "Sir, the east perimeter is breached. They're inside the facility." West grabbed his rifle. "Hold this position. I'm heading to the ship." Inside the ship, Elena and Jack heard the sounds of fighting drawing closer. "It's now or never," Jack said. He placed his hand on the circular panel. Nothing happened. "Try the sequence again," Elena urged. Jack touched the symbols they had identified, then placed his hand on the panel once more. Still nothing. Elena's shoulders slumped. "We were wrong." "No," Jack insisted. "We're missing something." He studied the panel again, noticing a small indentation near the edge. "Here, there's something." When he pressed it, the circular panel glowed with soft blue light. "Now try," Elena whispered. Jack placed his hand on the glowing circle. This time the entire chamber hummed with energy. The walls came alive with light, patterns flowing across surfaces that had been dark for years. A section of the wall slid open, revealing a space they had never seen before. Inside stood what looked like a glass pillar. As they watched in amazement, the pillar filled with swirling light that slowly took on a humanoid shape. "Genetic verification accepted," said a voice unlike any they had heard before. It spoke in a language they didn't recognize, yet somehow they understood perfectly. "Eldarin descendant identified." "Eldarin?" Elena repeated, confused. The light formed into a figure that looked almost human, but with slightly elongated features and eyes that glowed with inner light. "I am a guide program, created by the Eldarin civilization," the figure said. "This vessel belongs to our people. You carry our genetic markers modified by time but recognizable." "Are you saying humans are related to your species?" Jack asked in disbelief. "The Eldarin seeded many worlds with compatible life before our civilizations, and," the guide explained, "Earth was one such world. You are distant descendants, though you have evolved on your own path." The walls of the chamber displayed star maps and images of a highly advanced civilization. Then it showed the Vraxians discovering abandoned Eldarin cities and taking their technology. "The Vraxians are not authorized users," the guide continued. "They found our abandoned outposts after the Great Decline. They use our technology but cannot access its full potential." Suddenly, the door to the chamber burst open. Colonel West stumbled in, bleeding from a shoulder wound. "They've breached the main entrance. The Vraxians are inside the ship." The guide's light pulsed. "Threat detected, activating defense protocols." Throughout the ship, systems that had been dormant for centuries came to life. The battle for Earth had reached its turning point. A strange hum filled the air as the ship's systems activated. Lights flickered on throughout corridors that had been dark for years. In the control room, screens and panels lit up with symbols that flowed and changed. "What's happening?" Colonel West asked, his gun still pointed at the door where Vraxian soldiers would appear any moment. "The ship is waking up," Elena explained, watching in awe as dormant systems came to life around them. "It recognizes Jack as a descendant of its builders." The holographic guide spoke again. "Defensive protocols engaged. Unauthorized users will be removed from this vessel." Outside the hidden chamber, they heard strange sounds followed by shouts of confusion. When they peered into the corridor, they saw Vraxian soldiers backing away from walls that seemed to ripple with energy. Weapons in the aliens' hands sparked and shut down. "The ship is disabling their technology," Elena realized. Colonel West touched his radio. "All Earth forces, hold position. Something's happening with the alien ship." Commander Krell stormed through the human facility, 4 elite guards at his side. After months of planning, he would finally reclaim the lost vessel. His troops had broken through the outer defenses and were securing the area around the ship. "Status report," he demanded as they approached the vessel's main entrance. "Our first team entered the ship 2 minutes ago," a guard reported. "We lost communication with them shortly after." Krell frowned. Technical interference, perhaps. We'll proceed anyway. As they entered the ship, Krell felt a sense of familiarity. Though he had never served on this particular research vessel, all Vraxian ships shared similar designs. Or so, he thought. The corridor ahead suddenly seemed different. The walls pulsed with light patterns he had never seen before. His communication device went dead. Then, most alarmingly, his personal weapon powered down. "What's happening?" one of his guards asked, panic in his voice. Before Krell could answer, a voice echoed through the corridor, speaking in a language that seemed to bypass his ears and go straight to his mind. "Unauthorized genetic signature detected. You are trespassing in Eldaran property." A holographic figure appeared before them. Humanoid, but clearly not human. It had elongated features and eyes that glowed with inner light. "Eldaran?" Krell whispered. The word was familiar from ancient Vraxian texts. The name of the legendary civilization whose ruins had provided the foundation for Vraxian technology. "This vessel does not belong to the Vraxian collective," the hologram stated. "Your people found abandoned Eldaran technology and claimed it as your own. You have no rights to this ship." Krell's mind raced. This changed everything. "Where are the humans? I demand to speak with them." In the control room, Jack stood with his hand still on the circular panel. Through the ship's systems, he could somehow sense what was happening throughout the vessel. It was as if the ship had formed a connection with him. "The Vraxian commander is on board," he told Elena and Colonel West. "The ship has neutralized his weapons." "Can you communicate with him through the ship?" Elena asked. Jack nodded, unsure how he knew he could do this. "I think so." He closed his eyes, focusing on the ship's communication systems. Somehow he knew which mental commands would activate them. "Commander Krell," he said. "This is Jack Miller. I think we need to talk." In a large chamber near the center of the ship, both sides met. Jack, Elena, and Colonel West stood on one side. Commander Krell and two of his guards stood on the other. Between them hovered the Eldaran guide. "Impossible," Krell said, looking at the hologram. "The Eldarans disappeared millennia ago." "Their civilization fell," Elena replied. "But their legacy remained, including on Earth. We are their descendants." "That cannot be," Krell insisted. "We found their technology first. We are their rightful successors." The guide spoke. "The Eldarans seeded many worlds before their decline. Earth was one. The humans carry Eldaran genetic markers, which is why this vessel responds to them in ways it never did to your people." Jack stepped forward. "The ship recognizes us, Commander. Its activated systems your people never knew existed." As if to demonstrate, a section of the wall opened, revealing technology that even Krell had never seen before. "Your ancestors found abandoned Eldaran technology," Elena explained gently. "But they couldn't fully access it because they didn't have the right genetic key. We do." Krell's four eyes blinked rapidly as he processed this information. "If what you say is true, this changes the balance of power significantly." Colonel West spoke for the first time. "Which means continuing this war would be costly for both sides." "The collective will not accept this," Krell warned. "They may have no choice," Jack said. Through his connection with the ship, he could feel its power. "Look outside." On screens around the chamber, they could see the Vraxian fleet in orbit. All 7 massive warships were dark, their systems disabled by a signal from the Eldaran vessel. "The defensive protocols affect all unauthorized Vraxian technology within range," the guide explained. "Your fleet is currently powerless." Krell slumped visibly. "You could destroy us all." "But we won't," Elena said quickly. "That's not what we want." Jack nodded. "We're offering peace, Commander. A new relationship between our peoples, based on mutual respect." 2 days later, in the same United Nations chamber where they had first seen Commander Krell's face, world leaders gathered to witness the signing of the Earth-Vraxian Treaty. Krell, speaking on behalf of the Vraxian collective, was practical in his approach. "The humans have proven themselves to be the genetic heirs of the Eldarans. We cannot dispute their claim to this technology. Rather than continue a costly conflict, we propose an alliance of mutual benefit." The terms were straightforward. The Vraxians would withdraw their fleet and recognize Earth's sovereignty. In exchange, humans would share some of their insights into Eldaran technology, particularly the interfaces that had previously been inaccessible to the Vraxians. Both sides knew the truth. Neither could afford a prolonged war. The humans had the advantage of the Eldaran genetic connection, but the Vraxians had centuries more experience with space travel and colonization. After the ceremony, Elena found Jack standing alone, looking out a window at the night sky. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Everything that's changed," he replied. 3 years ago, I was just a park ranger who found a crashed ship. Now I'm somehow connected to an ancient alien civilization." Elena smiled. "The guide told me there's so much more to learn. The ship's database contains the history of the Eldarans, our ancestors, their accomplishments, their art, their knowledge. And their mistakes," Jack added. "They were advanced enough to seed life across the stars, but something still caused their civilization to fall." Colonel West joined them, looking more relaxed than they had ever seen him. "The President has approved Project Starlight. We're going to build our first true starship using what we've learned. The Vraxians won't be the only aliens out there," Elena said. "There could be other Eldaran descendants on other worlds." Jack looked up at the stars again. The crashed ship hadn't been an ending, but a beginning. Humanity's first step toward a much larger universe and their cosmic heritage. "We have a lot of catching up to do," he said. "But at least now we know we're not alone." The three of them stood in silence, watching the stars that no longer seemed so distant or unreachable. The battle was over. Humanity's journey to the stars was just beginning.